Today on SCC, crew discuss sports cards versus sports NFTs and break down 3 myths that surround the debate. You're not going to want to miss this. Coming up now on SCC.
Welcome to episode 34 of Sports Cards Culture. I'm Chris_HOJ on Instagram. I'm here with Kristina at Kristina's PC, Nick at Stiff Arm Wax, and Josh at Cardboard_Chronicles, all on Instagram. All right, sports NFTs are going to be with us for a little bit while longer. Last week it was announced that Dapper Labs, the creators of Crypto Kitties and NBA Top Shot, will soon be releasing digital video collectibles featuring NFL moments. Kristina,
yes.
Any guesses on what the NFL's version of Top Shot will be called?
Okay.
I don't know, by the way. I
have a couple.
All right.
Top Blitz, Top Spike,
Okay.
and Top, and I think that was all.
Not bad. Did you pre-think of those?
I mean, I just read the script while you were introing, but...
Okay. Kristina reads ahead quickly. LaMelo Ball already offers NFTs, as does Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, and Floyd Mayweather, Stiff's guy. Luka Doncic, who recently signed a deal with Hollywood powerhouse agency William Morris Endeavor, has announced that he will soon offer a platform for creating, selling, and trading NFTs. Josh, as a LeBron collector, how do you feel about the fact that LeBron doesn't have an NFT platform but has commented that he owns 2 copies of his exquisite RPA?
Just look at my face. I'm so happy. I'm just glad that I don't collect someone who is trying to be the face of one of these goofy projects or has changed their profile pic to a, bored ape or whatever. Oddly dressed ape. I'm really glad that I don't collect someone that has donned that as their profile picture. And the second part of your question, that he's actually even better, is that not only does he not have an NFT platform, but he also has stated that he owns a couple exquisite RPAs. I would just say that LeBron has better taste than all these other guys. He's better in every form as a human at this point. I don't know what else to say. This is like the final piece that is like the proof that I told you guys that LeBron is the man.
All right, that answer may have slightly exceeded the scope of the question, but
also
we'll take it.
Also might have exceeded reality, but that's fine.
I could keep going if you want. I mean, you guys are just giving me like this little window.
So some of you might be wondering, what is a sports NFT? The Los Angeles Times explains that the technology behind NFTs, which stands for non-fungible tokens, offers, quote, a way of authenticating both ownership and veracity of a digital item, end quote. The Time goes on to explain that sports NFTs like Top Shot are, quote, a digital version of a traditional basketball card, end quote. Yes, Kristina.
I remember the third one I thought of. Top down.
Top down.
Right? Like
like a convertible.
Sure.
Okay. Well, let's see if one of those works. All right. Now, when the Times said that NBA Top Shots are like a digital version of a traditional basketball card, that makes me cringe, because in many ways, sports NFTs and sports cards are polar opposites of each other, and we're going to dig into that in just a minute. But if the sports NFT companies just left us old-fashioned card collectors alone, this topic wouldn't even be on my radar, but they insist on marketing their product to us. They plant targeted ads on social media platforms aimed at us. Whenever they speak to the media, they insist on referring to themselves as the digital evolution of sports cards. And they even infiltrate clubhouse rooms that are designed for sports card collectors. Kristina, do you enjoy having NFT people come into clubhouse sports card rooms?
I mean, if they want to come in, that's fine. I don't enjoy them talking, though.
Okay. We know why they market sports NFTs to us. The modern sports card collector belongs to a highly coveted demographic group. It's filled with middle to high income sports fans who enjoy collecting and investing in sports related items. Josh, as a sports card collector, do you enjoy having sports NFTs marketed to you?
I do not. I do not enjoy it. I don't like mind so much that the companies do it because they're just like putting in their little keywords on the ad targeting and it's just sort of finding its way to me because, you know, the things I search. So like I get that part of it. I guess I'm more annoyed at I get more frustrated with the people that are in the space and have been in the sports card market trying to convince me to switch or somehow draw the correlation or, you know, draw the comparisons of the two and basically like trying to get me to spend my money on that instead of cards. That's I guess the part where I, you know, it is what it is, but I'd rather they not.
There are a few sales pitches that the NFT companies make, and they all boil down basically to the concept that NFTs offer all of the same desirable characteristics that traditional sports cards offer, but they also have even more characteristics that make them better. These sales pitches are dangerously wrong, and given that sports NFTs keep on coming, it's finally time to push back a little bit. So once and for all, let's dispel the myth that sports NFTs are like traditional sports cards, because they are not. And proprietors of sports NFT companies should stop telling the public that they are. So the first myth that I want to take aim at is the myth that physical cards are a hassle that us collectors just wish we didn't have to deal with. So, for example, here's what Mark Cuban had to say on the show NBA Top Shot Weekly back in March. Quote, "When you deal with physical collectibles, you have to worry about grading it, storing it, packaging it, shipping it, receiving it, valuing it. And the valuations are not efficient whatsoever. One card store is going to value an item differently. One website is going to value it differently from another. With NFTs, you take away all the hassles of physical ownership."
If only there was an app that everyone could go to and find the value of their sports cards.
I did think about that. Okay, so that was the end of Cuban's quote. All right, Josh, let's break this down one piece at a time, because Mark Cuban threw a lot out there in that quote. First, Mark Cuban says it's a hassle to grade your cards. Do you find the grading process to be a hassle that you wish you could avoid?
Hassle grading. I would say of all those, like grading is probably the one that's the most annoying just because of like how long it takes. But it's not the physical part of the grading that bothers me. It's just sort of the, you know, the fact that everyone wants to do it and I have to wait forever. I wish it was faster. That's about it. I remember grading like 2 years ago, a year ago, even a little bit, was like the most fun part of it for me because I could like organize my cards, you know, gather them up, clean them, prep them, sort of get them. And it's like, you know, I said this to you the other day, but this is a hobby. So like, I don't want things to be super fast. I want to be able to like take my time and spend my part of my day doing this hobby. And I don't want it to be too easy and too quick and automated. So like the prepping of the grading part was always one of my favorites. So I like the grading process the way it is. I just wish it were faster.
No doubt. The fact that it takes, you know, so long and there's such a big backlog of cards waiting to be graded speaks to how much people like grading things and how much demand there is for the grading service. You know, when it comes to grading, there's also a pretty fun risk-reward proposition when buying raw cards. You know, maybe you luck up and you get a really high condition one that grades well, or you don't, and you might end up losing money. It can go both ways. Or you develop a trained eye for spotting condition, and you actually then can monetize a skill that you have by identifying cards in good condition. Also, grading and flipping cards is a really important part of the trading card economy because you can grade cards, the value of them appreciates if they grade well. Profits are made by the person who originally bought the raw card, and then they use those profits to buy more sports cards. So grading is not only integral to the sports card marketplace, but it's one of the most fun, gamified parts of the sports card hobby. If it is a hassle, it's a hassle in a good way. Kristina, Mark Cuban says that it's a hassle to have to store your cards. Do you find storing your cards to be a burden?
Surprisingly, I do not agree with Mark Cuban. And it is not a hassle to store your cards. It's fun. You rip a lot of product, such as the shelves behind you and on this table here. and you get to sort your cards and put them away, and you get to like go through and create sets. And I mean, is it a hassle when you're thinking about like your big grails and should you vault it or bank it, and what's the benefit over that? And insurance has their own rules of where certain collectibles over a certain amount of money should be stored and how they should be stored. I don't think that's a hassle, though. That's just life. Like, that's just taking care of your possessions. I feel like this guy is super out of touch, doesn't really know the industry, and is trying to tell us who are in the industry how we should move forward. And to that, I say thanks, but no thanks.
Okay. Yeah, what do you think he means by hassle? Because if he just means like minor inconvenience, like you have to have something happen. Like, I don't enjoy figuring out what to do with the crap cards, you know, and that I open up. But it's like, it's not a hassle, though. You know what I mean? Like, if I got to put them away.
Well, that's the whole point. The sales pitch of the NFT is that you don't have any of these hassles. You know, you don't have to.
You don't have any of the fun.
I think that's the point that we're driving at here. So just to make this point, this is a more practical point. But Josh, Kristina alluded to this, but just to make it clear, suppose that a collector didn't want to store their physical cards, but they would rather do away with the hassle and let somebody else store the cards for them. Is there a way to avoid storing your own cards and to send them somewhere that they could be stored?
I want to jump in on the previous one first, which will lead me into my answer. Cards were like, they're like designed to be very storable and easy to store. They're literally like very thin. They're pieces of paper that are super tiny that you can stack, and the slabs themselves are even nicer. They like fit together and they form a groove, and it's a very satisfying process to store your cards, especially graded cards. They fit in shoe boxes, man. Like that's always been their thing for all these years is, you know, the sports memorabilia industry has like big bulkier items, big basketballs, and you gotta hang them on the wall, and they're just like big bulky items. Cards, you can fit your whole collection in a shoebox. And at this point, I feel like Card Ladder is the only company that doesn't have a vault. So there's many, many, many options for you to vault your cards if you wish to have. So the vault it's not just the purposes of storing the card. There is another value there, which is the insurance part of it. So you're actually having your cards insured and vaulted in a remote location. And did you touch on collector's insurance? You could also like do that yourself. Like if you wanted to vault it at your house, or you have a safe, or you wanted to do it at a bank, you could also pay for collector's insurance, which is pretty reasonable. I would say the costs are about the same as if you were to do it in the vault yourself. So definitely look into collector's insurance, because then you can still have the best of both worlds of having the items with you and then having them insured, which is kind of what the vault is trying to accomplish.
Now, Josh, let me stay. Did you have something on that?
I was just going to say, like, this is really ridiculous. You know, it's a hassle cleaning out your closet and storing all your clothes. Therefore, clothes should be digital.
Don't worry, that's coming up. Save that. Save that thought.
It's just like so ridiculous.
Save that thought, okay? Just save that thought. Don't you just wish you didn't have to do anything? You could just roll out of bed, open your eyes, and your whole life gets lived, and you didn't do anything. Okay.
Or you could just stay in bed.
Or not. You're right.
We have rooms dedicated to cars. They're called garages, like entire rooms just to let our cars have a place to go. But we're complaining about
cardboard,
these tiny little pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's why are the people. And this might be jumping ahead too, but are the people? I think this exposes the people in the card hobby. As if they like NFTs, like what are they really in it for?
Okay,
I think are they just investing? And
yes,
this
probably.
Isn't even for collectors. Like to me, the NFT space.
Now you're jumping ahead to the third part. Kristina jumped to the second part,
okay,
but
I'm
it's
setting
good.
Up when
we're all flowing together here.
Script.
Okay. Let me stay with Josh for a second. Now, this is a more of a nuanced point, but Mark Cuban says it's a hassle to value sports cards since different stores and websites like Card Ladder might apply a different value to a card. Now, do you wish that we could rid ourselves of the hassle of needing to value sports cards?
And NFTs have a set price that's organized by one like governance or something? Did I miss that? Like NFTs is like more of a Wild West in pricing than cards ever will be, because we have hundreds of years of data and history and all-time sales to back up. where the prices come from and how it makes sense. And there's auction houses dedicated to it where NFTs are just completely made up prices across the board. Whoever owns it, you set the price. There's one of them or whatever, so like it's all made up. I guess I'm not understanding how that is a plus for NFTs. But no, like the whole, that's part of the fun for cards. And I mean, people are going to use this argument for NFTs since I just proved they don't have this, they don't have it different anyways. Being able to figure out what something is worth, and having the skill and the knowledge of something more so than anyone else, gives you an advantage in this industry. So like if you understand, pricing trends and what sort of things are moving and why, and what sort of cards are worth, and you're able to jump on deals a lot quicker. You're able to make better purchases. You're able to fund your collection at cheaper prices than someone else that has less knowledge, just looking to throw money at the problem. So the pricing aspect, makes it for more of an interesting market overall. It makes it a little bit more competitive, and there's different nuances to that. So I think that's part of the fun for sure. Like if you've ever been to a live card show, at the National or whatever, the pricing is obviously that's all of it. Is like people trying to figure out what it's worth, and it's just this constant buzz around the show floor. Is like people wheeling and dealing and communicating and negotiating. That's a big part of sports cards.
Kristina,
Yes.
what about when Mark Cuban says it's a hassle to ship and receive sports cards? On the one hand, he has a point. It is nerve-wracking and time-consuming sending stuff in the mail. But on the other hand, he clearly has never experienced a mail day before, because the mail day, the receiving of a card, is one of the peaks of card ownership. Do you consider the shipping and receiving process to be a hassle that you wish you could avoid?
I mean, yeah, sure, going to the post office isn't always fun, but in a COVID pandemic world, when you work from home, it's kind of nice to get out of the house and see some new faces. So that's not even the worst. And then the enjoyment, like I guess the hassle would be like waiting for the FedEx truck when it says it will arrive by 8 p.m. But that's part of the enjoyment, the anticipation, the exhilaration that you feel all day. And like every time like you hear a truck drive by, you're kind of like, oh my God, is that it? It's like Christmas morning or like Christmas Eve, and you're waiting for Santa to arrive, and like every little sound is like, oh my gosh, this is it. And that's what getting a mail day is like.
No doubt. Good.
And I also want to say this quote explains a lot about the Mavs non-moves during the offseason.
All right.
Because obviously it's a hassle for him to try to get help for Luka. So he just is like, we're going to just do it digitally.
Maybe he could bring in an NFT or something. To 6 man. Okay.
This guy.
All right. So let me just recap.
Doesn't he have a job? Why is he still talking?
I think we drove the point home pretty emphatically, but let me just recap it here. So the hassles that Mark Cuban identified are in fact the fun of sports card collecting, are a big part of it. And removing them fundamentally changes what sports card collecting is. So grading cards, storing cards, valuing them, receiving mail days, even mailing them out are some of the best parts of the sports card hobby. And none of them exist with sports NFTs. So the next time you see a writer or a talking head or a proprietor of an NFT business go out there and say sports cards and sports NFTs are the same thing, Mark Cuban and the Card Ladder Quartet just explained why they are not the same at all in very important ways. The next myth that I'd like to bust is the pro NFT argument that, and this is what Kristina was alluding to, that because some parts of our lives are becoming increasingly digital, that all parts of our lives will become increasingly digital. This argument is used to support the conclusion that sports cards, physical ones, will, of course, eventually become digital. So, for example, an article written on Medium by Core Ledger argues that, quote, the innovative part of NFTs will become obvious once we truly merge our digital and physical lives. Virtual worlds are not science fiction anymore, whether in the form of an immersive virtual reality game or the less immersive but no less digital workplaces that many of us have been inhabiting since the start of lockdown and remote work last year. If this pace keeps up, we are only a few years away from living, loving, learning, and working in virtual environments, end quote. The problem with this argument is simple. just because more people are working remotely and people are playing
No, you had it right. Remotely.
remorsefully and people are playing video games using virtual reality headsets, it does not follow that other facets of life necessarily become digital as well. Will food become digital? Will toothpaste become digital? Will our husbands and wives become digital? Will our children become digital? No, because not everything is better or even makes sense in digital form. Some things are much worse in their digital form. And with a little help from Mark Cuban, we've already given multiple reasons why sports cards are worse in their digital form. Kristina, remember when we opened an NBA Top Shot pack on the crossover?
Yes.
Was opening a digital pack of cards as fun as opening a physical pack of cards?
No, and you two both owe me $9 still.
We both do.
Yeah, interest.
Why do we owe you any money?
1, because you told me to buy it, and 2, because emotional duress, and I need $18 for my $9 spent now.
So you were actually
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's what,
Thank you.
Speaking of arguments that follow from each other, so Kristina just made a great ROI on her Top Shot pack.
But hold on. But was it a hassle to move the mouse and click the buttons? I mean,
You
that's
know,
a hassle.
it really was.
You couldn't
It was
just do it
also
with your mind.
It was also a hassle because I had to like get my credit card out and
Oh,
like
see?
Oh, jeez.
Yep.
Oh, my God.
yeah.
All right. Josh is someone whose professional life involves building things digitally. What is your take on the argument that all of life is eventually trending towards becoming digital?
Well, I mean, unless you believe in the Matrix, that just isn't true. Like, we still have to survive in a physical world, and this is not a simulation. So we still have bodies that we need to maintain and survive on. So until you think that like literally your own consciousness is digital, we're still in the physical world. And why do you think Elon Musk is spending so much of his resources on trying to physically get us to other planets? These are like physical movements in space. So I actually believe that in the next decade or so, people will want to move more towards physical. Like, if you notice that there's been a lot of pushback on the Facebook platform in terms of, it's becoming a divisive tool amongst our society, and it's causing people more stress. The suicide rates are higher because of Facebook and digital forms of things like this. So I actually could see a world in which things become more physical. And even if not so, then like people are still going to want demand for physical items in their lives. And it just makes the cards more rare if everything else is moving digital anyways. So no matter which way you look at it, there's still going to be a large portion of people that prefer things physically over digital.
The final myth number 3 that I would like to bust or try to bust is that everywhere you look, sports NFTs are being marketed as collectibles. In fact, the NBA Top Shot website, its tagline says, quote, "Collect and trade NBA and WNBA digital collectibles." But are NFTs truly collectibles? Is anyone collecting them? The website Investopedia's page defining collectibles makes several observations worth noting, particularly because of how they relate to the concept of sports NFTs as quote-unquote collectibles. 1. The condition of a collectible has a great deal to do with its price. 2. The store of value that makes a collectible usually doesn't come into play for many years, and for the vast majority of items it never comes at all. 3. The term collectible is sometimes applied to new items that have been mass-produced and are currently for sale. This is a marketing gimmick used to stoke consumer demand. This is a different phenomenon from what drives the value of true collectibles. And number 4, whether it's sports memorabilia, antiques, comic books, fine art, or model trains, people generally get into specific collectibles as a hobby they're passionate about versus simply to make money. Josh, based on your observations, is anyone out there actually collecting sports NFTs? Has enough time even passed for us to be able to know if NFTs can meet the definition of being a collectible?
That was going to be my answer, is there just hasn't been enough time. There's like no data to support that anyone is collecting it because they've been around for such a short amount of time. The only evidence we have so far is that people are looking to buy it, wait, sell it for more in the future. And so that's just sort of the investor flipper mindset so far. And to be honest, I haven't met anyone yet who is collecting them per se, and I'm not sure even if they said they were, I'm not sure how you could prove it one way or the other, because like we said, there's just not enough time. Like if we're looking at a lot of sports card collectors who've been in this hobby for 10, 15, 20 years, we know they're collecting because we have 20 years of evidence to show that they've owned this card for more than 10 years or whatever. So it's just too early to even call it right now. And so like a lot of these have popped up in the last year. So I just, I don't have any data to support any decision on this yet.
Kristina.
I just want to take
Yes.
a moment before you ask me a question and just like build upon what you asked and like what you just said about Investopedia defining collectibles. I think that today we live in a very immediate instant gratification world where even your favorite restaurants will be delivered by a third party, so you don't have to leave the house, and you get mad if it's like an hour of like wait time. But I think like that instant gratification world has created an environment where investors are demanding an immediate return on what they've put money out into, and that's not how things work normally. Like you don't play the stock market for a month and then you retire. Like normal people, quote unquote normal people, like the average person puts money into the stock market and into their 401k to invest over the time, like the period of their working life, so they can retire on that money like 20, 30 years after they start putting money in. And like now we're just like expecting, and but like you're expecting like that instant, I paid 100 and now I want it to be worth 5,000 so that I pull out and I have this like immediate return on my investment that is larger than anything that I could have actually done anywhere else. And it's so preposterous to me, and I'm not a fan of it. And this is why I think like I've been so against Top Shot since the beginning, because that's who keeps pumping it. Like people who are like, I need the immediate return. It has to be $100,000, even though you opened a pack for $9, like, and it's a brand new freaking product that has no history. And it seemed like I just can't go on.
Kristina,
Can I
just
jump in one more time?
Yeah, go for it.
The part of it being digital is going to make things really tricky long term, because they're able to create supply of this much quicker than with physical, and there's no licensing. So like literally anyone can create an NFT at any point, and they can create infinite versions of that NFT or variations or whatever you want to call it. Like Top Shot has like 12 of each highlight clip that are different rarities, but they're all the same. So like you just add them all together. Basically, it's basically like printing 50 variations of Prism, but not even changing the color. So I don't even understand how they're different. But this applies to a lot of other NFT projects you're seeing where there's no actual licensing towards something that we're connecting it to. Whereas sports cards, you have to have, Topps, Upper Deck. These companies have the exclusive licenses, and they can only print physically so much quantity. So there's actual fabricated rarity built into NFTs, and it's all just fudged to make it seem like it's rare. But over time, we could just have a point where like there's infinite of all these. So then the argument is going to be, we'll just only collect the certain ones. That's going to get very confusing over time, given that it's all so new. Which ones are going to be the ones that stand out? If someone creates digital forms that are the exact same, and since there's no licensing issues, they're able to do that without any pushback, or there's no regulation. You can't sue anyone for making the exact same NFT as someone else. So it's just very Wild West, and you're basically speculating on a lot of things going right.
Speaking of the proliferation of NFTs that we've already seen begin to happen this year, especially with seemingly every superstar athlete, with a few exceptions, moving in the direction of having their own NFT, Kristina.
Yes.
The newer sports NFTs are now being bundled together with gamification and with traditional collectibles, those old hassles. For example, LaMelo Ball's NFT comes with the chance to win real-life autographed memorabilia, tickets to NBA games, and his high school championship ring. Some of these physical hassles will unlock when LaMelo Ball reaches certain statistical achievements. What does the fact that sports NFTs are now being paired with traditional collectibles and gamification, what does that say about the value of sports NFTs as collectibles?
They have none.
Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. I guess
They
the
have
question...
to bundle it with things people actually want. To sell them.
Exactly.
Those old hassles.
Why don't you just buy NBA tickets?
Yeah, and NFTs are just the hot trend right now. So you put that in. I think the Ball family is aware that this probably is another, but they don't want to miss the train of having an NFT. Because otherwise, yeah, you wouldn't need to package it with other things if it stood on its own, being, good enough. But it's not.
Well, the Balls are entrepreneurs, and when LaMelo was shown that LeBron's Top Shot moments, the moment depicting LeBron, sold for $208,000, LaMelo's first question was, how much did LeBron get from that? And it turns out that 5%, the 5% Top Shot fee that marketplace captures, it's split between Dapper Labs and the NBA Players Association. And the NBA Players Association, all the players get an equal share of Top Shot revenue. So LeBron got as big of a share from that as Maxi Kleber did from that same clip. So I think
Kleba, by the way.
LaMelo Ball and probably other athletes looked at that and they said, why can't I just make my own NFT? I'll mix in some, real actual collectibles, physical collectibles with it.
Because it has no value.
I'll just have my own platform.
Yeah, so you're bundling it because you realize that it doesn't really have an inherent value.
Josh, for the final question of today's show, let me ask you this. Katie Tedman, who is the head of partnerships for Dapper Labs, said, quote, there is a world in which both physical trading cards and digital assets can live side by side and can both be valuable. When you think about collections and collecting, there's all sorts of different kinds of opportunities there. We, meaning Dapper Labs, NBA Top Shot, have many, many collectors who are physical card collectors as well. And I don't think they would say they see them as competitive. They're really complementary, end quote. Do you agree with Katie Tedman's sentiment here? And is it too much to ask if we want them to back off from misrepresenting quote-unquote digital collectibles as some sort of superior version of physical collectibles, even as flattering as it is that they want to be like us, when in fact the opposite seems to be true?
It's not too much to ask for sure. I mean, we've talked about that at length here. And what Katie's saying, I mean, it's true. Both will have their own separate value. It's just that one eventually will be, over time, be worthless. It will be approaching zero, so it will technically have more than zero value for eternity, I guess. Someone's going to own these things. I don't know about complementary. I think that's just sort of, again, like leaning into the fact that NFTs kind of need, like Top Shot specifically kind of needs sports cards in order to exist. So like they would love to be complementary. That's just sort of forcing that relationship onto sports cards that we did not ask for. So, after all this, I would like to see a little bit more separation. And, if NFTs are so great, then stop pitching it to sports card people and let's see it survive on its own.
I also just want to say, I know I've been guilty of this before where I say like sports cards are our generation's art and like our generation doesn't care about fine art that you hang on walls. They want art in a shoebox. And so like, I mean, I get the extent of like them trying to associate it with something tangible and something that people know, but I don't go to art rooms on Clubhouse and tell them you should stop investing in stupid art because sports cards will replace you. Like, that's my belief. I'm not pushing that on others, especially the others that are in that collective, like, that are in that, like, collective hobby.
See, it reminds me of that meme where Steve Buscemi is like a high schooler, and he walks up, hey, fellow kids. Like, that's the that's the NFT coming to sports cards. Hey, fellow collectibles. And it's like, no, we all know this is like a manufactured. How long have they been saying NFTs are the new thing? Like, it's never going to stop.
I mean, you hit the nail on the head with, like, Top Shot, like, 5% of the fee. The 5% fee, part of it goes to the NBA Players Association. So that's when we saw all of those NBA players like being like, "Ooh, look at Top Shot. Ooh, like someone sent me a Top Shot. Ooh, I have a Top Shot. Look at this person's top." Like, obvious, it was a marketing gimmick, which brings us back to Investopedia saying it's not actually a collectible. Mic drop.
Nice. Okay. That was going to do it for a rousing episode 34. See you guys next week.
Thanks for watching. Tell us in the comment section below what the crew should cover next week, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time at SCC, Sports, Cards, Culture.